She was just 9 when she vanished. 30 years later, they found the truth beneath her home. Today's case is unlike anything we've ever covered. Because this wasn't a runaway. This wasn't a stranger abduction. This wasn't a case of someone slipping through the cracks. No, this was something far more twisted. And it took 3 decades, 3 agonizing decades, for the real truth to claw its way out of the shadows. What investigators discovered in 2022 shocked even the most hardened detectives, because the truth wasn't buried deep in the woods or hidden in some forgotten storage locker. No, it was hiding underneath the victim's own house, the very same house where her parents lived for 30 years after she disappeared. This is the story of Emily Hartwell, a 9-year-old girl who vanished from a quiet suburban street in Fall River, Massachusetts, in 1992, and the jaw-dropping revelation that finally uncovered what really happened. Stay with me, because nothing about this case is what it seems. 911, what's your emergency? The call attendant asked. My daughter, she's gone. Emily's gone. The back door was open, and she's just gone, says her mother. That call came in at 3:17 a.m. on October 6th, 1992. The woman on the phone was Margaret Hartwell, Emily's mother. She claimed she'd gone to check on her daughter during the night and found her bed empty. The back door was ajar. No sign of forced entry. No blood. No struggle. Just vanished. Within hours, the neighborhood was crawling with police. Helicopters circled overhead. Search dogs sniffed every inch of the surrounding woods. But they never picked up a scent. No footprints. No clothing. Nothing. Emily Hartwell was just gone. And from day one, something about the case felt off. First, Margaret said the back door was unlocked when she woke up. But her husband, Daniel Hartwell, told investigators he had locked it himself at 10 p.m. and checked it again before going to bed at midnight. So, how did it become unlocked? Second, the family's dog, a massive German shepherd named Duke, was trained to bark at anything unfamiliar. Neighbors said Duke was aggressive, even with the postman. But the night Emily vanished, not a single bark. According to Daniel, the dog never made a sound. Police began to suspect the unthinkable, that someone in the house, someone the dog knew, may have been involved. But they had no evidence. And despite hours of interrogation, both Margaret and Daniel passed polygraphs. The case went cold, but not for long, because just 2 years later, there was a new twist. In 1994, a local man named Toby Cullen, a known sex offender, was arrested for attempting to lure a child from a nearby park. While in custody, he told detectives he'd seen Emily Hartwell on the night she disappeared. According to Toby, a blue station wagon had picked her up outside the Hartwell home. The Hartwells owned a beige sedan. But here's the thing. A neighbor did report seeing a suspicious blue vehicle parked 2 doors down that night. So investigators latched onto this lead. For 6 months, they tried to build a case against Cullen. They even searched his house. Nothing connected him to Emily. The lead fizzled out, and the case once again froze over. Years passed. The Hartwells moved on. They held annual candlelight vigils. Daniel became a deacon at the local church. Margaret was often seen weeping at Emily's memorial bench by the park. To the outside world, they were grieving parents clinging to hope. But behind closed doors, there were secrets, big ones. In 2021, everything changed. That year, the Hartwell home, now over 50 years old, was sold to a young couple, Lena and Chris Romero. The Hartwells had downsized, citing health reasons. Lena and Chris began renovations. They planned to tear out the old carpet in the basement and install hardwood floors. But as they pulled up the final corner of the carpet, Chris noticed something strange. A small square of discolored concrete, right in the center of the floor. It didn't match the rest. It looked newer, fresh almost. And that's when they called it in. Police arrived. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Within minutes, the dogs alerted. The entire basement was sealed off. When forensic crews jackhammered the concrete slab, what they found underneath was horrifying. A shallow grave, a child's bones, tucked inside a pink floral bedsheet, and next to the skeleton, a small, rusted music box, the same one Emily was known to carry everywhere. The remains were confirmed. Emily Hartwell had never left the house. She'd been under it the entire time, buried beneath the basement. The very basement where her parents held prayer vigils, did laundry, decorated for Christmas, for 30 years. And yet, no one ever suspected a thing. Not until now. So who put her there? That answer would shatter everything the community believed about the Hartwells. Because when forensic teams examined the remains, they found something chilling. A hair. Blonde. Long embedded in the fibers of the sheet. Not Emily's. But Margaret's. I know my baby is out there. I can feel it. She's waiting for us to find her. That same woman was arrested for first-degree murder in July 2022. But here's the twist. She wasn't charged alone. Daniel Hartwell, beloved deacon, model husband, grief-stricken father, was arrested 2 days later. According to prosecutors, the two conspired to cover up Emily's death. But the motive? Still unclear. The official theory? Emily witnessed something. Something she wasn't supposed to see. Something so damaging. They believed killing her was the only way out. You see, Emily had been journaling, and while the journals themselves were never recovered, her teacher, Mrs. Penelope Dawes, came forward with a chilling memory. Weeks before her disappearance, Emily had confided that her dad did bad things in the basement at night. At the time, the teacher thought it might have been a misunderstanding. But now, it raised serious questions. Was Emily being silenced? And was Margaret protecting Daniel? Or equally guilty? The prosecution argued that Daniel had been molesting a teenage neighbor girl who sometimes babysat for them. Emily may have witnessed it. And Margaret, desperate to avoid a scandal, helped stage the disappearance. They drugged Emily, smothered her, then buried her beneath the concrete. But here's where things go completely off the rails. Because just weeks before the trial, Daniel Hartwell made a stunning confession. He told his lawyer that he didn't kill Emily. He claimed Margaret did it. Alone. In a fit of rage. Why? Because Emily had told a friend at school that her mom hit her with a heavy spoon again. CPS had been called. A welfare visit was scheduled for the following week. Daniel says Margaret panicked and acted. But here's the problem. Margaret says the opposite. She claims Daniel killed Emily and forced her to help cover it up. They each accuse the other. Neither will take a plea deal. The trial was set to begin in March 2024. But then, he had no criminal record. No red flags. He was a quiet, well-liked man who baked cookies for block parties and ran a miniature train set in his garage every Christmas. But there's something else. In 1992, the same year Emily vanished, Griggs had been called to the Hartwell home to fix a broken furnace. According to old invoices, he spent 5 hours there on September 29th, exactly 1 week before Emily disappeared. When detectives brought in crime scene analysts to compare the Polaroid basement with Griggs' current home, they found a match. That same recliner, those same exposed pipes, even the exact same clock, still stuck at 2:17. But when police searched the house, they found something else. In a locked cabinet in the attic, they discovered 14 more Polaroids. Only one showed Emily. The others? Different children, all between the ages of 8 and 11. All terrified. All photographed in that same basement. But none of them were ever reported missing. Why? That's what police were trying to find out. They brought in Walter Griggs for questioning. And for the first 48 hours, he said nothing. But then, he cracked. What he told police sent shockwaves through the entire investigation. Griggs claimed he didn't kidnap Emily. She was given to him by Margaret Hartwell. Griggs claimed Margaret showed up at his door just after midnight on October 6, 1992. She was crying, holding Emily by the wrist. She said, "You need to take her. She saw something she wasn't supposed to see. We can't keep her." Griggs said he refused at first. But Margaret offered money. A lot of it. And then she said this. Make her disappear. Like the others. Wait, others? Detectives pressed Griggs. What did she mean by the others? But he shut down. He refused to say more. At the same time, forensic teams re-examined the Hartwell home. This time, they brought in a ground-penetrating radar team, and what they found left everyone speechless. Because Emily's body, it wasn't alone. 3 feet from her grave was another body. Smaller, even more decomposed. DNA confirmed it wasn't Emily. In fact, it wasn't anyone known to the Hartwells. To this day, the second child remains unidentified. But here's what we do know. This second child died around 1988, 4 years before Emily. And the concrete above her body was poured from the same batch used in 1992, suggesting both graves were prepared at the same time, which means Emily may not have been the first. She was just the one who got caught in the middle, the one who saw too much, and possibly the one who fought back. Police asked Griggs again, "Did you kill Emily?" He said, "No. She was alive when she left my house." Wait, left? Griggs claimed he only kept Emily for *2 days. He said he fed her, let her sleep in the basement, watch cartoons with her, and then a man came to pick her up, a man he'd never seen before. Griggs described him as tall, bald, wore a brown leather jacket, and drove a green pickup. He gave no name, just handed Griggs an envelope, and left with the girl. That was the last time he saw her. Investigators searched every missing person, every report of suspicious vehicles, every known offender in the area with a green truck in 1992. One name surfaced: Harlan Voss, a convicted trafficker who operated a black market adoption ring in the early 90s, right in the Massachusetts area. Voss served 6 years in prison after being caught in 1995. But here's the twist. When detectives visited Voss in prison, he recognized Emily. Immediately. He even provided the name of the man who paid for her, a Boston surgeon named Dr. Leonard Calder, now deceased. Calder and his wife had reportedly adopted a troubled girl from out of state in late 1992. No paperwork, no records, but their neighbors remembered her. She had long brown hair, a blue ribbon, and she was quiet, terrified of cameras. So was Emily really murdered? Or was she trafficked by her own parents? Was the body under the house a decoy? Was it even Emily? That's when DNA results came back, and everything collapsed. The remains in the basement were not Emily Hartwell. They belonged to another child, a girl between 8 and 10 years old. The music box found with the body, planted, to sell the illusion. Which means one thing: Emily never died that night. She disappeared, and someone wanted it to look like she didn't. So who was the real girl in the grave? And who else was involved in this web of lies? Because Margaret and Daniel are both still on trial for a murder that never happened. Griggs is now facing charges related to trafficking and unlawful imprisonment. And Voss, he's cooperating, giving names and locations. And then, one final twist. In March 2025, just weeks ago, a woman in her late 30s came forward in Seattle, Washington. She said she has been watching the entire story online, and she believes she's Emily Hartwell. The FBI is now running DNA tests to confirm her identity. But if she's telling the truth, that means the girl who vanished in 1992, the girl the world mourned, the girl who was supposedly buried beneath her own home, has been alive all along. And that raises one terrifying question: who's the girl in the grave? And how many more like her are out there? But when the FBI ran her DNA, they didn't just get a match. They found something that changed everything we thought we knew. Because the woman who claimed to be Emily was telling the truth. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was who her real parents were. March 2025. FBI agents swabbed the woman's DNA at a safe house in Seattle. It takes 72 hours. But when the results come in, it's a 99.99% match to Emily Hartwell and 0% match to Daniel and Margaret Hartwell. That's right. Emily wasn't their biological daughter. She was kidnapped as a baby. Investigators dug through decades-old birth records and cross-referenced hospital reports from 1985. What did they find? A missing infant from New Hampshire, reported stolen from a hospital nursery on October 20th, 1985. The baby's name? Abigail Grace Whitmore. Her parents, Thomas and Rachel Whitmore, were devastated. The case went cold. Until now. Because Emily Hartwell is Abigail Whitmore. So how did a stolen baby from New Hampshire end up in Massachusetts, living with a seemingly normal suburban couple? That's what the FBI wanted to know. They subpoenaed every adoption record, every social worker, every shred of legal documentation tied to Emily's upbringing. And what they found was horrifying. There were no legal papers, no formal adoption, because the Hartwells bought her from Harlan Voss. Remember Voss? The trafficker who claimed Emily was sold to a Boston surgeon? Turns out he lied. The Calders did buy a girl in 1992, but it wasn't Emily. That was another child entirely. The real transaction, the one involving baby Abigail, took place 7 years earlier, in 1985. And the buyers? Margaret and Daniel Hartwell. Back then, Voss operated under the radar, posing as a private adoption broker for desperate couples. And Margaret? She couldn't conceive. She and Daniel had been rejected by 2 adoption agencies. So when Voss offered them a no-questions-asked solution, they took it and raised Abigail as Emily. But by the time Emily was 9, she started asking questions. Where she came from? Why didn't she look like her parents? Why did her birth certificate look faded and forged? She got suspicious. She started snooping. And one night, she found a photo album, hidden in the attic. Inside were baby photos, none of them hers. Receipts, cash exchanges, a letter with her real name, Abigail Grace Whitmore. And in that moment, everything unraveled. That's what Margaret meant when she told Griggs. She saw something she wasn't supposed to see. Emily wasn't a rebellious child. She wasn't troubled. She was curious. And that curiosity almost got her killed. Because what Griggs didn't know was that Emily escaped. He claimed a man came to pick her up after 2 days. That was true, but it wasn't a trafficker. It was a friend of Emily's real birth mother, Rachel Whitmore. Here's how. After Emily was left with Griggs, she managed to steal his cordless phone and call the only number she could remember. It wasn't 911. It was a number she found scribbled on the back of that attic photo album. She dialed, and someone answered. A woman. She said her name was Rose. Emily told her everything. Her name, the house, the basement, the man who kept her there. And Rose. She came. She didn't go to the police. She didn't make noise. She showed up in a green pickup truck, wearing a brown leather jacket. She told Griggs she was there to take the girl to the next family. But she lied. She took Emily straight to New Hampshire, to a private network of underground advocates who specialized in rescuing trafficked children. And they kept her hidden for 30 years. Which raises the question, if Emily was alive and safe, why didn't she come forward sooner? That answer will chill you to the bone, because someone threatened her. For years. Through letters. Through anonymous voicemails. Through sudden accidents in every town she moved to. She believed, deep down, someone was watching. Still part of the ring. Still protecting secrets. Even now, with Emily alive and testifying, prosecutors dropped murder charges against Daniel and Margaret. But now, they face federal charges for human trafficking, fraudulent adoption, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. And that's not all. The body buried beneath the concrete. Remember her? The unknown girl. DNA finally gave her a name. Maya LeClaire. Age 10. Missing from Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1988. She'd been reported missing after walking home from school. Her parents never got answers. Until now. Because Maya was also sold. But unlike Emily, she didn't survive. So far, police have connected 7 of the Polaroids found in Griggs' attic to real missing children. 5 are still unaccounted for. 2 were confirmed dead. And Griggs? He's not talking. Voss. He's in federal custody, under 24-hour surveillance. Because someone's been trying to silence him. 2 attempts on his life in the last month. 1 poison meal tray. 1 staged suicide. But here's the most unbelievable part. Last week, a guard intercepted a letter mailed to Voss. No return address. No fingerprints. Inside, a single photograph of a young girl, sitting in a basement. Same floral recliner. Same blue ribbon. But this time, it wasn't Emily. It was someone else. And scrawled across the back of the photo, in red ink. You forgot one. The FBI believes there may be more children. More buyers. More graves. And the deeper they dig, the more this case unravels into something far bigger than the Hartwells, than Griggs, than even Voss. This wasn't just a cold case. It was a network, a system built on silence. And someone out there is still pulling the strings.